So what is an array? Array is basically an identifier that can store many data items under the same variable name. Now, whenever we are talking about storing many data items inside the same variable name, you can understand that, well, only the variable name is not enough to identify each of these variables. Let's say this 5, 9, 22, 6. You cannot access all the variables, all the data items just by the variable name only. Rather, with the variable name, you have to use an index to properly identify each of the data item. For example, like the zeroth item or the item at index 0 of array 1 is 5, or item at index 1 of array 1 is 9, or the item at index 3 of array 1 is 6, something like this. And the same way, if it comes to array 2, which is basically a collection of some character instead of integer, there also it is same. Like the zeroth, the index item at index 0 of array 2 is a, and item at index 3 of array 2 is n, something like this. So just for easy understanding, you can think of this real world scenario where, let's say, that there are several persons standing in a queue, and you have two options to identify each of them. First, you can call them by their name, like Alice, Bob, Charles, David, and so on. In that case, you need to know all of their name. But the other clever way of doing the thing is just identify all of them as person, and then just use a small index like 0, 1, 2, 3, like this, to identify each of them. For example, this one is the person 0, this one is person 1, the next one is person 2, the next one is person 3, in this way. So now if we try to understand this concept in a coding like scenario, or algorithm or pseudocode like scenario, it looks something like this. Let's say I have four integer values like 5, 9, 22, and 6. One way of identifying them is using different variable name, like I0 equals 5, I1 equals 9, I2 equals 22, I3 equals 6. One way of doing the thing. Similarly, when you want to identify four different characters, you can use four different variable names like C0, C1, C2, C3, C4, or whatever variable name you want to use, you can do that. But think of the limitation of this process. What if you have 1,000 data item in your code that you need to process? Do you want to use 1,000 different variable name? Do you think that is feasible? Well, of course not. So the other clever way of doing the thing is collect them or identify them using an array variable. So there the variable name will remain same, just point them out by their index. So array 1, the zeroth, the index 0 of array 1 will identify the data item 5. The same way, the index 2 of array 1 is 22. So similarly, if we come to array 2, the item at index 0 of array 2 is A, and item 3 item at index 3 of array 2 is 0, 1, 2, 3. This is N, something like this. So if we want to do the same thing in C++ code, it looks something like this in the right hand side of the code. But this is for the presentation, but let us understand this concept using a C++ program demo now.